Yellen and Law Podcast. You get the information you need in terms you can understand and act upon.
All right, everyone. Welcome to the Yohanan Podcast. I'm here with Miriam Ovadya of Hive Recruiting, and we're going to be talking today about offshore hiring. Obviously, everyone knows about offshore manufacturing, but we're talking about offshore services delivered remotely. Miriam's been extremely instrumental in my own business and many other businesses for just ramping up staff in a way that probably wouldn't have even been possible if we were only hiring U.S. residents. So I think one of the first questions that a lot of people have is the question of when. They understand that it could fit into their workflows, and some people may have already experimented with independent contractor, part-time, just one-off offshore workers. But when are people ready for a kind of full-time offshore worker that full-on staffing agencies like yours provide?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Thank you so much for having me here, Adam. It's really an honor. I've loved working with you till now. Yeah, it's been great. So this is one of the things that I try to guide my potential clients in and current clients in this. And the way that I think about it is like this. Most of my clients, I am servicing mainly small businesses and mid-sized businesses. And a lot of them don't necessarily have like a structure or like this is the first time that they're thinking about it, So sometimes when I tell people, especially the ones that are like the solopreneur, like the one-man show, it's like, okay, if you're already profiting and at $10,000 per month and you're spending more than 4 hours on anything administrative that's not growing your business, it's time to get someone. I provide like office services, meaning administrative assistants, executive assistant, billing help, customer service, but I definitely also do the more skilled professions, but really my bread and butter is mostly like the office, meaning because the goal is that once the small business has that help with the administrative side of things, then they can actually focus on growing their business. They have someone that can handle everything, and so that they can go ahead and go to the events, reach out to people, do the calls, have the meetings, have the discovery calls. Whereas like if you're doing everything, it just becomes a lot of decision fatigue, a lot of just overwhelm from like everything that you're doing. Let's say you're chasing payments and stuff like that. So it's not the most productive for you who took the risk, to start something on your own, who has dedicated the time, who has dedicated the resources. And so if you already got into $10,000, it's like, okay, you got something going on. And if you got to 10, you could get to 20, and then you can get to 30. And, but obviously to get there, it's going to be more hours of like the admin, So I like to say like, if you're spending I would say even 3 hours is a lot, if you're spending 3 hours, 4 hours, it's like, okay, no, you need to outsource that, And some people, and from my end, like, because I'm in the industry, I know there is a lot of other providers, but sometimes people that come to me, it's like they may have heard about it, but not really, And so like once I tell them about it and how like, no, it's an actual person, it's an actual professional that has previously worked in this. They're just in South America. But they speak perfect English. They are fluent. They're professionals. They're hard workers, and they would think of this as such a great opportunity. Yeah, I would say that's when people are ready. Then comes the next topic of like, okay, you're ready based on those two criteria, but then are you ready to bring someone on and set them up for success? Meaning, you need to take the time to structure it, You need to take the time to structure it and to be there to provide the support, Because sometimes it's like a solopreneur, you're wearing like all the hats, right? You're billing your customer service, you're the client success manager, you're the sales rep, like you're everything. You're the one actually do the work for like whatever service is that you're providing, Sometimes they think like, oh, like, okay, whatever, like people just get thrown in there, and then that's not really going to be the most beneficial to you, So that's like the other part of it. It's like, okay, are you at 10,000? Do you work more than 4 hours a week on an admin? And do you also have time to structure this properly, So that's kind of have to say about that?
There's definitely a point where you realize there would be upside in firing yourself from many roles, but you still have to be able to say, I'm going to commit X amount to doing whatever's necessary to actually make this transition a success. And for many, that's going to be an upfront investment that ends up being actually much more significant than whatever bump in expenses the firm has to take. Mm-hmm. So my next question is more about like what it's going to take to make someone successful, especially for these really especially small businesses who don't really have an onboarding process already in place. They might not already have the job descriptions and the metrics and everything else that goes into the proper management. How can they make the most of this if they don't have any structure at all?
Right. So I would say the structure is so necessary. They can only make the most of it if they have the structure, right? So that is something that I can also help them with, and I have given people ideas, but at the end of the day, I am not in your day-to-day operation. I'm not in the ins and outs of your company. I haven't been with you from the beginning, meaning you, the client, So I definitely provide them with some guidance, but it is super, super important. There's so many resources out there, even starting with some template, but really taking some time to think about it. Not just like, I'm thinking about it in the shower. I'm thinking about it before I'm going to, no, like sit down, do some research, structure it, have a conversation with me, and I can definitely help to structure that. But it is so important because really imagine, so the workers that have had previous experience in it can only be successful if they know what the expectations are. If they know what the expectations are, if they have some metrics, if they have some deadlines. Because if you leave things in the open, then it's like the person is going to be back at square one, doing everything, maybe being afraid that, maybe because I never told them to do that, then like, I'm just going to do it, and then it's just not something that works out in the long term. So what I really, really encourage is like taking the time, please structure it. And I had a client recently who did that. They never hired for that role before. It was an accounting role, like an accounting assistant. He really needed a lot of help, but they've never had the help, and he really took his time. He created SOPs, he created deadlines, he created a proper structure, and now this person that comes in can really be the most efficient, Okay, so I also have an example of like, I work hand in hand with someone that he does sales development, okay? I don't do sales roles. Because sometimes the small businesses think that they're just going to hire a cold caller and they're going to give them some list that they pulled off of the internet, and that list it's a numbers thing. They're like, it's a numbers thing. And like, yeah, we know sales is a numbers thing, but they take it to like another extreme that they don't even understand. It's like, it's a numbers thing. Just give them numbers and call, And the people that I've given to such people that don't have a script or like they just made it up in the moment, that are telling them, just wing it, those people are not successful. And those reps like came back to me and were like, I can't do this. Like, it's brutal, they're like, it's brutal, So I actually work hand in hand with someone that does sales development, that he develops sales teams. And anyone that comes to me like wanting a call reps, I'm like, if you don't already have an in-house team that you've trained, that you've already done this, I'm like, I'm not doing it, but I'm more than happy to connect you with this person who will be there to make sure that they succeed, that will be there to review all those calls, that do the quality analysis, that do the script reviews. And he told me such a good story that it like stays in my head because I'm like, that's so true. He told me there was this girl, the sales rep, that was working with this company that then hired him, right? And then apparently to them, she's not good, she's not getting calls, she's not booking meetings, she's just not good, Then he was like, okay, he came in, he revamped the whole thing. Then this girl was like the star of everyone, because she just needed that proper guidance. She's not gonna make a sales team, she's not the type to make a sales team, but she's really good at following everything and making it successful, with that proper guidance. And that like really stayed with me. And that even made it more sure in my head that I was like, okay, no, I cannot do salespeople, Oh, and I mean, that kind of like, I would say sales is like the only thing that really like falls into. But other things, I'm like, okay, if you don't have the proper structure, if like someone's like, oh yeah, I want someone full time. Yeah, I could fill the hours. It's like, no, You need to make sure that you can fill those hours, because the workers that I can assign to my clients, they are really professionals in their countries, Most of them went to school, or if they didn't go to school, they have had extensive experience, let's say, in call centers and like other outsourcing firms. So they're people that can really get it done, but they really need like the proper structure.
I've noticed that a lot. There's basically, most founders have two types of workflows. They have the ones that they maybe have mastered themselves and they are really good at, and it would be easy for them to just put in writing like what they expect in those areas. And then you have certain workflows where the founders are still figuring it out for themselves and they don't even really know what to do either. And those types of outsourcings are going to come with a lot more upfront investment, because you might have to bring in that third party to help you make the formula, and you need to put the time in to go through that discovery process yourself. So I think people can, find success by maybe starting with the things that they're actually really good at. And as a founder, you may not be able to even hold yourself to strict structure and accountability and deadlines because you're pulled in a million directions. But when you bring someone who's dedicated to a role, you can actually raise the standards even above what you were able to get through yourself. So
100%. So actually, I have something to say about that. I think it's important to know that you cannot, so if you have to, as the founder, are doing everything, and you're like, okay, I'm spending 6 hours on admin stuff, let me just give it all to someone, right? That may not necessarily be the best option because you're doing everything, right? Like, it's not common that one role does everything, that one role does the customer service, the billing, the back office, the discovery calls, you need to make sure that you make one role that makes sense, right? So if it's going to be the billing, then maybe you need a part-time billing person, Maybe you need a part-time accounting assistant, or maybe you can outsource it to a CFO, Or if it's just admin, right? Like paperwork, getting signatures, getting documents, following through with a certain process, then that could also just be one person. But really hiring one full-time person to do all the things, even though all of the things could fill up the time, but one specific area wouldn't, it's better to have a part-time person that's just doing that's just an administrative assistant, or that's just a secretary that's handling the calls, that's handling the paperwork, that's talking to your clients, giving them updates on whatever the process is, It's better to just have one person that can dedicate themselves to just these type of roles than telling them also okay, now also go on this trip and do this random thing, that you as a founder, because it's your business, you're going to do it all, But it's not necessarily, it doesn't really make sense to have someone do that, because then that decision fatigue and that overwhelm that you have, you're just passing it over. And just because, okay, better them than me, but not really, it's not going to work out for you in the future, because you want them to feel confident about what they're doing and to know what the expectations are, and to do that and not have their head mixed up. It's kind of we as people, okay, we gravitate towards certain things. Let's say we're in school, some people are just have that math brain and they're just really good at math, or really good at science, or there's the people that that does not make sense in their head at all, and they're art kids, And so that kind of goes hand in hand here, where okay, sometimes people could be really good at customer service and getting the 200 calls a day. I have people that do that, Whereas someone else might just get to 100 because or maybe to 50, or maybe they don't even make it to the end of the week, because they're just wow, this is not for me. I'm more into the crunching the numbers and not talking to anyone, This all to say that we're dealing with people, we're dealing with people. They're not robots in South America working for you. They're real people, real professionals with real interests, and it's valid for them to say this works for me and this doesn't, So if you put in from their part, then it could be such a good working relationship that you have with your offshore worker, and something that can really propel you forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think it takes a big investment, and it's something that will pay off the more you grow, because the hardest people to onboard are often the first ones, because you're still figuring out the role for yourself. And then after a period of time, it'll take a life of its own. And there's always going to be certain areas that a particular company just does well naturally, and those are the ones that are going to scale easier. And then if there's something you don't know much about anyway, accounting or legal, it's always going to be harder to bring people on. So getting into the actual recruiting part of it, what kind of resumes and credentials can people expect to find hiring in Latin America across, a few of the different key types of workers that people try to bring in?
Right, for sure. So I would say that Latin America is filled with so many professionals. And I say Latin America because I do hire from different countries. I have people right now from Mexico, from Colombia, from the Dominican Republic, from Panama. And wow, I found amazing talent, meaning some people have more requirements of what they're looking for, and so that may be harder to find, but usually we can find anything. And the reason for that is that Latin America there are a lot of professionals, and the fact that they speak English just shows how smart they are, because it's not so easy. It's not oh, it's the second language of the country, English. No, it's actually very hard, and people have to go out of their ways to learn that English. A lot of them come to America to study English, or like their parents, push for them so that they can have better opportunities in the future to go learn English, and they put them in English classes. It's just unfortunate that in these countries, the economies are not favorable to them, and so there is like just an excess of professionals. And sometimes, for example, what I found is that because they haven't found like a job in their area of expertise, or because sometimes at the beginning level it just doesn't pay that well, they'll go to call centers, because they already know the English, and the call centers pay really well. But once they find that opportunity, and oftentimes it's like with an outside company, meaning from outside of their country, then they really feel like it's worth it what they studied, But there's so many professionals, like a lot of professionals that have come even to the US to study, and they get accepted here, they get scholarships here, and then they go back to their countries to try to do something with it, Yeah, like for example, right now I've filled paralegal roles, I've filled construction estimator roles, engineers, lots of customer service, lots of administrative assistants, and all of them have come with previous experience. All of them have extensive experience with working with US companies, right? And working in general, but working with US companies. So they come already like knowing, I had someone ask me like, could you really find this outside of the US? If like they're outside of the US, how could they know like how things work here? And I'm like, no. You don't understand. There is a lot of people. Like I said, there's a lot of people in the outsourcing space. I'm not the only outsourcing company. And so they've worked, they have extensive experience. And this goes hand in hand with like another topic that I want to talk about. And it's like adequate compensation for the workers, Obviously, outsourcing is a thing because it saves my clients money, That's kind of where it comes, right? I'm a small business, I'm growing. I cannot afford someone in-house and pay them $4,000 a month minimum wherever they are, And so really getting like outsourcing someone is just cheaper. And if I can get a professional too, right? But like I said, they're not robots. They're people that think this is a good opportunity, and to really make it something worth it for them, and to really show them like your appreciation and respect also, and adequate compensation is necessary. And so I'm not the cheapest out there. There's definitely people that like are just like hitting lower numbers, like, oh, I can get this remote person for like this. But I don't really do that. If anything, I kind of increase it because it's so important to make this employee feel valued. And that is not just like not just like a price tag, because at the end of the day, if you're having that person that can really bring you that value that you're looking for, that can really free up 6 hours of your time, and that you trust them and that you're confident in their abilities to perform the work, why wouldn't you compensate them adequately, And so this is where I talk about sometimes with my clients, of like including a bonus structure, or like spot awards, or doing like raffles to make it something that like, to make it a good work environment, a good work culture, but also that they should feel appreciated, they should feel recognized. Because sometimes in like the hustle of things, of like going from this task to that task to like this responsibility, this client, that client, sometimes like it's easy to see. Basically, it's easier to notice when things are not going right than when they are going right, And so it's so important to compensate them adequately, which is still gonna save you money. Like you're still gonna save money, But imagine like if you can save 60% already on your payroll and have this professional. For example, let's talk about a paralegal, right? I've filled paralegal roles that they went to some of the best universities in their country. They've worked for some of the best companies in their country, have experience with US law, have come here to do an LLM or a master's, They speak perfect English, and they go back, and you get to get them for a fraction of the cost as someone that did that exact same thing, entry level here, Like really, they've worked so hard, and they can really give you that value. It's so important to compensate them adequately. And so I even had a conversation with one of my workers today, and she said, I really feel like with you, like that she was like, you kind of like are the protector of like our rights, Like she was like, I wouldn't want to work with, like nothing against the client, She was like, but I would rather stay under you, because I know if anything were to happen, because things happen, then you could potentially put me with someone else, or I would have someone that can like vouch for me, and that I can explain like my side to, and I was like 100%. And today I thought about it and it gave me like another meaning in life, kind of like hearing that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, no, that's really how I feel. I'm like what she's saying is like, that's really how I feel. I feel like I really cherish them, because I understand. And like, for me, they're real people that I talk to. And I sometimes, even though I don't work day to day with my workers, I still like talk to them. I have conversations with them, and obviously I took the time to meet them in the beginning. And yeah, I really feel like I have that connection with them. And I really feel like blessed that I'm able to like partake in all sides, to be able to give them the opportunity to have this job, and then helping my clients because they have this good person, and I feel like it's great all around.
Yeah, and it's worth it to invest in retention given how much you need to invest up front to make that initial investment in the procedures and the training and the onboarding worth it. You do need to retain ultimately.
Right. 100%. And to go along with that, I feel that it's also, like I said, they're people, they're professionals, and so having an open communication with them, letting them know, hey, like this is new, this is a new role that we're forming, and we are trying our best and doing our due diligence to structure properly. But please come to me if there's anything that you feel like, whatever feedback you want to give me, positive or negative, or if you have any constructive criticism of what you feel like would make more sense to doing this, I like making it a team. It's a team effort. Once you bring them in, then it's really not going to be like, oh, they're the offshore workers. They're just crunching the numbers. They're just behind a computer. We'll see how long it works for. No, if you put in that time and effort also, to create that relationship, to have that open communication, that they can really be your right hand, going forward. And like you said, like what you kind of said, it can eventually become like a self-sufficient process. If you really put in that time you put in that initial investment to create the role properly, then you constantly are doing things to retain the employee, right? To show them that you're grateful, to show them that you are a team and that you're working together and that you're hearing their side, And eventually this person can really become your right hand. And then eventually you don't have to put in that time anymore. They can just train the next person or help you form the thing, So yeah, it can become something really, really good and really beneficial for all sides.
So my last question is, what are some of the key strategies that you can implement to sort of build the company culture that's going to cultivate offshore workers who are building upon themselves and able to train the next hires and constantly be increasing their productivity and feeling like they belong and all the things that are going to lead to sustainability in this area?
For sure. I think that something that I mentioned already, creating bonus structures, like constantly recognizing them, but creating a system for yourself where you're constantly recognizing people, Let's say creating a newsletter that gets sent out every month and someone is highlighted or each person is highlighted, but like a contribution that they made that month, as well as giving spot awards, not necessarily to everyone that you listed, but like, okay, in this quarter, this person worked really extra hard in this thing. We really appreciate it. And we're giving them this gift, or like doing raffles, doing raffles, let's say like every 6 months. It also depends like how large your team is, right? If you have a team of 50 people versus a team of 3, then it might be different. Then like the one-on-one, that like, let's say having a team meeting with 3 people is different than having with 50, So with like a team meeting of like 3 people, you can take the time to express to each person, what their contributions have been, how much it means to you, how much it means to the company, and what you're giving as a thank you, But like for bigger teams, it could be something like a raffle, Like, okay, every 6 months there's going to be a raffle and it's something fun. But they should also get the spot awards, So hopefully for a team of like 50 people, you already have more of like a chain of command, like the team members, the manager, then the senior manager, then like this, and just create a proper structure, to be able to recognize the people. And yeah, I even have this thing that it's kind of cute. A client of mine, what he does sometimes is that he'll like for a certain team that like, let's say they made their quota for the month, he'll like send them money for a meal, right? and then they do a meeting, and then they all like eat together and like listen to music or whatever. They're like talking about this thing, but like I think the bottom line of everything is like obviously it's remote. It's not the same as you can't give over the same like in terms of like a relationship through the computer as you can in person, but there's like so many little things that you can do to create that work culture. But I think that the fruit of it is all communication, recognizing them for what they do. For sure, also gift giving, whether in the form of like money or like an end of year gift, this is something that's really nice, recognizing them in front of like their coworkers or everyone else, it's really the best. And in addition to that, it's also recognizing other people. And throughout the year, giving them that freedom to like, okay, please take your time off, please take your time off. It's paid. Please go and relax, not to think that, oh, they need to be here every day. It's like, this is part of like creating that work culture of like, thank you so much for everything you gave to me. Please go take a rest. Like, I also care about you, I also care about you. Please take some time off. Please relax. Like, please come back fresh. And whenever you need anything, let me know. And giving them that flexibility also, a lot of the workers that I have, not a lot of them, because most of my work crew is like younger. But I do have some employees that have children, and and even though they have children, they like never miss work. They never miss work. They make sure that like they always deliver. And sometimes because I'm a mother, I'm like, oh my gosh, like how is that even possible? But they're so committed to their work. And so it's important to recognize them and be like, hey, I know you have little kids, please take this day off, something like that. It's just little things. Even if you do it once a year, you don't understand how much it can do to someone, to make them feel like, wow, this person really appreciates me and they understand me. They know what my situation is, and it doesn't take so much. Like, you don't need to sit down and talk about your life and asset, your life story for like 2 hours, but just these little things are gonna go a long way.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Miriam. You've done so much to help small and medium-sized businesses, and many are growing because of you. So what's the best way for people to contact you or find you on the internet?
Oh, so for sure, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best. I'm on there all the time. You can see my information on there. My email address is on there. My phone number is on there. And yeah, just reach out to me on there and I'll be very happy to speak to anyone.
All right. Tune back in for the next Yohanan podcast, and I'll see you soon.